Welcome back to Homeboundless. Today we're going to be making the video that I have been meaning to make for years, but I've just had a hard time starting, I guess. So let's start. Today we're going to talk about MCS, or multiple chemical sensitivity, specifically my experience with MCS and my experience only. It's been really difficult to talk about because I'm trying to piece together the timeline in my brain and I can't. If I'd known how much it was going to destroy my life, I feel like I would have been better at taking notes when I started. I started trying to document things too late, so if you're starting to feel sick, document, go to your doctor, and make sure that your doctor documents, because I did discuss this with my healthcare physicians and my allergists, and none of them wrote it down, which makes it hard to fight when you are trying to get disability or help in any single way. So document, make sure that your healthcare providers document. Anyway, since one of the side effects of my MCS is a brain fog, it's hard to kind of remember how things went, but luckily I stumbled upon something I had written 7 years ago, which was really helpful in helping me remembering what it was like to be triggered all the time. Because right now I'm isolated, I'm not triggered all the time. First, let's go back to 2012 or possibly very late 2011, when suddenly this tendency that I had to get sick from smells, where I'd get a headache or I'd feel nauseated from very specific smells, which is very common for a lot of people. Doesn't mean you have MCS, but that was something that was always a part of my life, but then suddenly things changed. I remember I was working at a school at that time, and I was also working with a group for adults and children and teens with disabilities, and I was running I was leading a group for teens who were on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. At that point in my life, it was all about autism. I was leading a group for teens who are on the autism spectrum, and one of the activities that I was supposed to do with them is they were having someone come in and teach them how to make beaded jewelry. And I remember the woman who was coming in to teach them how to make jewelry smelled like so strongly, because she was clearly a chain smoker and she used a lot of perfume to try to cover it up, and they put us in a room with no windows. And I remember all of us feeling sick, and I wish at that time that I had advocated to either move to a more ventilated space or just to call it quits on the day. Knowing what I know now, I should have done that, but we are conditioned to not make a fuss and to just keep going. And yeah, I don't remember if that was before or after I started to get sick at my main job. I feel like it might have been after, but it also would have been a great initial triggering event that would make sense of the whole thing. But what I remember as being the real initial trigger is that I was walking through the school, and one of the classrooms near the classroom that I worked out of was doing a special breakfast for their students, and they had bacon cooking and they had coffee running, and all of a sudden I felt sick, but not in the, oh, I feel a little queasy, or oh, I have a little bit of a headache. I just felt feverish and exhausted. I had an undeniable reaction in my body to these smells that are natural smells. They shouldn't have made me sick. You shouldn't be able to get sick from coffee. You shouldn't be able to get sick from bacon, but I did. And I ended up going home sick early that day, and as soon as I left, as soon as I got home, I was fine. And that's the thing, is it is the things that are triggering you that are triggering you. And once I removed myself from them, then I was able to be better. Sometimes it took a long time, but I was able to get better away from them. After that day where I got sick from coffee and bacon, I began to be sick by many other smells. There was a student who did some work in our classroom who had a brand new lotion, and I got very sick and I had to go home. There was a teacher who worked in the room next door and sometimes in my classroom, and I had worked with her for years, but suddenly I couldn't be in the room with her. I couldn't be in the room with her because I felt like my throat tightened up when I was near her. I couldn't breathe when I was near her. And so I asked her if she'd changed anything. And she hadn't, but she gave me a list of things that she had been using, and I think I figured out that it was her hair product, possibly her dryer shampoo. And the ironic thing, I guess, is that the school where I was working, when I started there, it was a fragrance-free zone. Because we were working with so many students who are on the autism spectrum, it was important to the school to have very low sensory inputs, to not wear perfume, to use unscented products. But then when it was something where I could no longer be in the building without being sick, where my throat would tighten up and I couldn't breathe, it was not something that they could enforce or were willing to enforce. The thing about fragrance-free policy is people think, well, I'm not wearing perfume, I'm not wearing fragrance. But go through your house. Look at all the things that have fragrances. Look at your shampoo, look at your conditioner, look at your body wash, look at your toothpaste, look at your deodorant, look at your cleaning products, look at your home fragrances, look at your laundry products, look at your garbage pail, look at your garbage pail liners. Everything has a fragrance. And if you are really going to be truly accessible, truly fragrance-free, that means you have to make those choices every time you buy a product, not just when you decide whether or not to put on perfume. And another thing is, if you are going into a fragrance-free area, it's not about the fragrances that you put on your body that day, not just about the fragrances that you put on your body that day, it's also about all the fragrances that you have had before. Do you have an air freshener in your car? Because that smell is going to be on you. Are you wearing a coat where last time you wore it, you wore perfume? Because that smell is going to be on you. It's a lifestyle, it's a commitment, and very few people have been willing to make that commitment for me, which is a little heartbreaking because it means that I have to make a commitment to being isolated in my home, that my family has to make a commitment to take care of me and go shopping for me and to do big milestone events without me. I know I'm rambling. Since the initial triggering event at my school, I began to get sick more and more often. There were rooms that were fairly safe for me because the staff who worked there they were fragrance free. They made a strong effort to be fragrance free. There were parts of the school where I just knew I could never go. because the staff there wore heavy perfume, strong smelling deodorants, lots of hair products. And it's hard when your life is devoted to caring for others, trying to make accommodations for others to live their best life. And the people who are working with you are making the same commitment to care for others and to make accommodations for all the students to live their best life. And they couldn't change the hair products for me. Okay, I gotta actually finish this thought. So I began to get sick more and more often, and it got to the point where I walked through the door and the smells of everybody's soaps that they used in the shower that morning would make me sick before I even got to my classroom. And I had to start wearing a mask in school, which was a nervous thing because I work mostly with students who are on the autism spectrum, and some of them reacted very badly to seeing people in masks. So that was a worry, but luckily I kept a note in my pocket, so whenever someone asked me why I was wearing a mask, I was able to show them and explain briefly that smells made me sick, and I was wearing it for my protection. I was not contagious. And this was back in 2012, 2013, back before people really understood masks in this country. And then of course the other problem with wearing a mask and needing a mask in order to be able to breathe is eating food. Which one of the students suggested, like, why don't you just eat in your car? And I'm like, well, that's a little depressing and it gets very cold here in the winter. So I don't want to make a commitment to that. I would rather people actually tried to not make me sick. Is that so much to ask? I mean, yes it is. I think we've all learned how little people care about helping other people when it means making small sacrifices in their own life. Okay, finish the thought. Never gonna happen, never gonna finish this thought. I will just, here. I made this list. I think I'm gonna like lean on past self to help me finish a thought here. My brain's a little scattered, but I don't know when I'm gonna get another chance to make this video. This is a list that I wrote many years ago about all the symptoms that I was experiencing at work throughout any given school day, and I'm sure there are symptoms that didn't make this list. And I wouldn't necessarily have all these in a day, but I might. Some days were really bad, some days were less bad. So my symptoms include, but were not limited to, throat tightening, difficulty breathing, muddy thinking, where my thinking gets very cloudy and slow, and I have poor judgment, poor concentration, poor confusion, lots of executive functioning difficulties. Racing pulse, coughing. Sometimes I would cough so much that I would pee my pants or throw up. Those were very much pregnancy problems, but also like not limited to pregnancy. I think I'm going to make another video at another point about being pregnant and having MCS, but the short version is I don't recommend it. Panic attacks. Things were changing so rapidly for my body that it caused a lot of panic attacks. Dizziness, exhaustion, irritability, nausea, fever, weakness or lightheadedness, congestion, itchiness, a migraine headache, paranoia, and mood changes. Since being in isolation, I have been more or less isolated for about 8 years now. Since being in isolation, a lot of that is alleviated on my day-to-day. I do still have triggering events in my life, but for the most part, I'm healthy, I'm happy. Like, a little stir crazy, but isolation for me was the way to go, because trying to fight through my symptoms, trying to make the world safe for me, but not having any control over it, it exponentially worsened my reactions, the things that I react to. It's a snowball. So now, for the most part, I can handle natural smells, but if I am already triggered by something, I can't handle any smells. So if I am triggered, then those are the days that we will either make food in the outside kitchen, or we'll buy food in, because I just can't handle it. And when my family members get home, the first thing they have to do is they have to take a bath or a shower, because they're bringing in those smells with them. But yeah, and really the paranoia and the mood changes, I think those were really strongly related to being in that constant state of being attacked by something. Since I've gotten sick, there have been days when I've lost my sense of smell because I had a cold, and we've taken that as opportunity to do some dirty science. This is pre-COVID, by going out to places that would definitely trigger me, because I was curious how much was me reacting to something that was a legitimate threat, and how much was me just overreacting to everything. And the answer is both. Because I was able to be in a triggering space longer with no sense of smell, but I still had a lot of fallout from it. It still made me sick. Just, yeah, probably not as many of the adrenaline reactions and more of the actual physical fallout of being someplace that makes you sick. Alright, I also made a list of things that I react to, but the list is pretty much everything that makes a smell, and some things that don't. We went to the hospital for a family emergency when I was starting to get really sick, and this hospital didn't really smell in and of itself, but there were so many chemicals that I was reacting without really having a smell that I was reacting to. So that was interesting. Anyway, things that I react to: perfume, cologne, scented soap, fragrance shampoo / conditioner, mousse, gel, hairspray, etc., lotion, fragrance and fragrance free. Lotion is a really hard thing for me. Scented deodorant, scented laundry products. Mountain Fresh is typically the worst, but they're all bad. There's one that I don't know the name of that my neighbors use, and I can't go outside when they're doing the laundry. It's bad. Air freshener for your home or for your car. Scented soap. Garbage bags. If you know someone who sells actually unscented garbage bags, let me know. That's a problem. Oranges, coconut oil, candles, smoke bonfires, grills, new carpet, new electronics, paint, spackle, fresh wood, potpourri. Well, fresh wood, when I am in isolation, I can handle fresh wood. That is something that bothers me more when I'm already triggered. Potpourri, bleach, Febreze, toilet cleaner, scented dish soap, hand sanitizer, whiteboard markers. Really a big problem when you work in a school. Whiteboard markers. Strong smelling flowers, strong smelling foods, baby wipes, permanent markers, floor wax, carpet cleaner, scented cleaning supplies, most cleaning supplies, coffee, bacon, books, newspapers, printer ink. Sadness. Christmas trees, like the fresh Christmas trees. Can't do that anymore. I would prefer fresh. We do fake. Essential oils, just because it's natural doesn't mean that it's good for me. Incense, cigarette or cigar smoke, car exhaust, propane, natural gas, mold, mildew, mothballs, etc. As I said before, it's pretty much everything that makes me sick. So, yeah. And at that time, I did try to talk to people, and I've worked with a lot of women because I worked in a school, and we did have a lot of male colleagues, but a lot of women. And whenever you try to tell somebody that the smells are making you sick, women, if they've been pregnant before, their first go-to is always, oh, I know when I was pregnant, blah, blah, blah. So like, it was really hard on me when I was just starting to gain some ground of getting people to listen to me and that I actually was pregnant, because I felt like they were never gonna take me seriously. But yeah, we were living in an apartment building when I first started getting sick. I'm so congested now from crying. We were living in an apartment building when I first started getting sick, and the smell of the carpet cleaner in the hallway and the other people's bathrooms, like other people's hygiene smells, their bathroom soaps would waft into our apartment, make me sick. Their cooking smells. When I moved in, it was a no smoking apartment, but of course, somehow they lost that and it was suddenly a smoking apartment building. So we had to move out. We moved into this beautiful home that I love and I'm grateful for, but it's a fixer-upper. And we haven't quite fixed her upper yet. But having a space where we can control more of the smells is crucial. I don't know where we'd be if I was still in an apartment. Probably nowhere good. And then I went back to school after we moved into this house, hoping that being out of the apartment building would lower my overall exposure enough to be able to tolerate being in school. But immediately, like, I'm getting sick every day, and I don't have the sick days to take off. I think we got like 8 sick days a year, which in a school is not enough because you're exposed to way too many germs for 8 sick days a year. So I was just working sick most of the time. I was a zombie, and it was really frustrating because before I started getting sick, I was really good at my job. I loved it. People were happy to work with me because I was good at my job. And then I was a zombie. My job required a lot of empathy, and you kind of had to be a psychic. You had to be able to look around and see what every student needed and meet those needs, or if they were old enough, challenge them enough so that they were able to identify their own needs and advocate for themselves. So it's a very nuanced job that requires a lot of balance, and it was a great challenge, and I laughed every day, and I was able to use a lot of the skills that I had that were all so varied, and I was respected. I don't know if I was liked, but I was respected by my peers and by the students. And then I wasn't good at my job anymore because I was always exhausted and always stressed out, and eventually I just couldn't be in that anymore because it was just making me sicker and sicker. So I've been home. And yeah, I am in a good place. I am lucky because I have an excellent partner who is a saint, and we have a home where I'm safe, as safe as can be. Someday we'll probably move out into the country where we aren't dealing with neighbors and their smells, but for now I love my neighborhood. Wish it wasn't stinky, but I love my neighborhood and I love my house, and I love that my kid gets to grow up around friends. That's nice. I didn't really have very many friends within walking distance, so I'm glad that she gets to have that. Yeah, and yeah, it was a struggle for a long time because I kind of needed my income, but now we're in a good place. And even though I lost my job in November, I was teaching online, and then I was teaching English online in China, and then China said no more foreign teachers. So I lost my job in China, and it was kind of a great excuse to just stop waking up at 3, 4 in the morning. So I'm very lucky that I've been able to do nothing since then, because there's not a lot that I can do. It has to be from my home. Excuse me. And I still have weird hiccups. That's never changing. I don't know. I don't know if I can make a video out of this. I feel like I just ramble a lot. But yeah, that's my experience, is one day things that shouldn't make me sick made me sick, and the doctors didn't really listen or understand or put it in their notes, and the place where I was working couldn't or wouldn't accommodate me, and so now I stayed home because it's the best way for me to be safe and healthy. Okay. I will at some point do a video about my experience being pregnant while having MCS. And if you'd like, I might make a video about what products we use, and as well as like some products that we're looking for a replacement for. If anyone knows any unscented garbage bin liners, let me know. Or any really good unscented conditioner, because they changed the formula of the one that worked for me. Thank you. Subscribe for more. See you next time. Bye.